it would always be that, don't later, like everything's good later. And I remember when I called my dad and I told him that. He said, "Understand, why don't you come home? Like, come home. Well, I didn't tell him that I was gone yet. Like, I said, hey, I want to go pursue this fitness thing. He said, cool, come over for lunch. We'll talk about it. And I was like, I'm already gone. And then obviously his tone changed a lot. And our relationship struggled for years after that. And I also bring that up because sometimes there's this illusion that like, you get on the Oscar stage or whatever it is, and you're like, hey, I just want to thank, my mom, my dad, my friends for always supporting me. And I can't say that. And I wish I could. And you might not be able to say that either. And I also don't think that's a reason not to do it. And so we did struggle for years after that to kind of like, because I was basically living as what was once his prodigal son, uh, goes and takes a minimum wage job as a personal trainer at a gym, like, cleaning floors and stuff just to learn the gym business. But that was ultimately like how I broke free, literally, physically leaving the area and, mentally. But I think that I had to accept that there was a timeline where my father would never talk to me again, and I had to be okay with that, to pursue what I wanted. And I think that when you asked the original question, what are the people from 0 to 1 really looking for? I read tons of business books at that time, but I couldn't use any of them because I was so afraid. And what's crazy is that like I think about it now in retrospect, and it's like it's crazy how large the perceived monsters can appear. And Layla has this quote that I love, but it's fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And so you look at it and it looks like this ocean. And then you take the first step and you realize you don't drown because it's like, oh, there's ground underneath of this, right? There's other people who are more on my path. And the friends you lose, you gain new friends, right? And so that fear was the hardest decision that I've had to overcome in my entrepreneurial career. And I think of all the split paths in my life, that was the one that if I had many timelines or many universes that existed, that was probably the one that is the most likely that I would not have parted from. So I think in like 90% of universes that Alex Ramosi exists, I'm just a consultant somewhere. And so I would encourage you, if you do feel that, you're not going to die. Like you won't die, and you might just live.
It's so interesting because I think everything you've said is just absolutely spot on. But you're right in where you say that if you'd asked an audience member listening now
Yeah.
why they haven't started yet, they wouldn't say fear.
Yeah.
They would say, I haven't got the X, I haven't got the Y. But actually, it is such an emotional thing. And we don't talk about that enough because uncertainty is, humans seem to be allergic to uncertainty and they'd rather the certain misery of their current situation typically than uncertainty.
And I think, and I used what I consider a very non-palatable word of coward purposefully because no one wants to say they're afraid because if you say you're afraid, then it means you're a coward. And I think that it only means you're a coward if